Um, Okay, so we had a machloket. Good morning, everyone. Beit Iyar. We're on Mem Tet Amud Bet 49b.
No?
Excuse me. Nun Amud Bet 50b. Thank you. We're by the two dots, about 15, 20 lines up. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer Kupa Mita al Mate al Tzidav V'Notel Shema Yito. In order to take from the pot that was insulated on Shabbat, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, you tilt it to the side, and you can't, because if you take it out, then maybe the insulation will fall into the hole that you just took out, right? And then when you want to put it back in, how are you going to put it back in? It's stuffed up, so you're going to have to move it around. It's muktzah. So, and the Chacham said, no problem, you could do it. You could take it out. So, Amar Rab Abba, Amar Rab Chia Barashi. Hakol Modim, everyone agrees, Shem Nitkalkal Haguma Shasu Lachzir, that if the hole gets ruined, meaning to say that the insulation falls into that hole, you're not allowed to put it back by moving the muktzah. Right? That would be obvious. So you'll have to move all the muktzah, and that'll be a problem. So what's the machloket? Machloket Chachamim and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is only when the hole will remain a hole. Nothing will fall into the middle. So then what's the machloket? So the Gemara says, Tanan. Chachamim omrim notel umachzir. Chachamim said you could take it and put it back because there's not going to be any muktzah falling in. That's the scenario that we're talking about. So the Gemara says, Hey Chidami, what's the case? If you tell me that the guma is not going to get ruined, meaning it's going to stay a regular hole and nothing will fall in, you won't have to move the muktzah. Shapika amir Rabbanan. The Rabbanan then are saying beautifully, what's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's issue then? Right? Why not? There's not going to be any muktzah. So you see that you're wrong. It must be that the muktzah will fall into that. And if that's the story, and that's Pshat and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, then you see that you're wrong, that you said it's when it's not nitkalkala guma. So the Gemara says, Lo, the olam de lo nitkalkala. And by the way, it would be hard to understand the Chachamim then, what their issue is. But the Gemara says, Lo, the olam de lo nitkalkala. We're talking about that it was not ruined. The hacha b'choshin coming for you. The machloket is, are we worried that might happen? Marsa v'choshin shem nitkalkala akuma. Marsa v'en choshin. Rabbi Elazar says, don't do it, because maybe one time it will happen that it will fall in. And because you had permission to take it out, in order for you to put it back in, you'll move around the muktzah. The Chacham are not worried about it. Amar Rav Huna. Hai slikusta. Slikusta was a herb that was very beautifully looking, and it smelled very well, very good. And they used to fill up some sort of jar with wet earth, and they would stick the herbs into the earth. Tov? They would give it to very, very, high officials. Rashi says, Lifnei Sarim. And when he wanted to smell it, he would take it out of the jar. It was stuck into the earth. He would take it out of the earth. And then he would look at it and smell it. When he was finished using it, he would put it back into the earth. So the Gemara says, if you want to use that on Shabbat, this is what you have to do. That's what the slikusta is. Datza, you have to stick it into the earth. Sholfa, slip it out of the earth. This is all on Erev Shabbat. V'hadar datza, and then put it back into the earth. Like this. Let's say this is the herb, this is the earth. You stick it in, out, and then back in. Now you can use it on Shabbat. Why? Because then it's sharia. If not, it's asur. Why? Because we're worried about you moving earth around on Shabbat, which is muktzeh. So therefore, you have to make sure that the hole was already created, and you're not going to remove any more earth. Okay. Others learn that the Isser is the Isser d'oraita of osaguma, making a hole, which is Isser of chofer, of digging, which is a tolda of charisha, of plowing. Rashi learns it's a problem of muktzah here, that you're going to move earth, which is muktzah. Okay? So I want to learn Rashi like that also, that it's Isser melach. So now the Gemara says, Amar Shmuel, Hai sakina debeini urvi. People would put a knife between the bricks, into the cement between the bricks. So the halacha is, the minhag was that type of knife they would stick in between the bricks into like the soft plaster, whatever it was. So dots or shalf of other dots or shari. If you love asya, same thing. If you just thinking of the word in English. You drive it in to the cement before, then you pull it out. They drive it back in, that's fine. Otherwise, it's going to be asur, because you're going to move the afar again, it's going to be muktzah. So, Mazuta Vitem Ravashi Omar, Begudita Dekani Shapidami. If you want to stick the knife in to this big bush of, they had these bushes called Gudita Dekani. They grew very, very bunched together out of one root, then you could do that. Shapidami. You don't have to worry that you might end up peeling one of the reeds, and you're going to be over on memachek, on smoothing out. You don't have to worry about it. Okay? Amalei Rav Martchali Rava, and Mordechai asked Rava, Mativ Rav Katina. Rav Katina asked on the words of Rav Huna and Shmuel, that said you're allowed to put the knife or these herbs into the earth, as long as you put them in, take them out, put them back in. To Yufta, he asked him a question from the following Mishnah. It says in Kilayim, Atomen lefet u'tznonot, tachat hagefen. If someone buries radishes, turnips, underneath a vineyard, a vine, which is an Isser of planting, it would be an Isser of Kilayim. If some of the leaves are sticking out of the ground, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about planting kilayim, because you're just burying it underneath. It's not taking root. So that's not kilayim. Kilayim is when you plant near the vineyard. If it's shmita, you didn't plant it, you just buried it. It didn't take root. Maser, Rashi says, is let's say it grows more. You don't have to worry about it, about the added parts that you took, meaning to say, you don't have to take off maser on the parts that will grow from now on. Why not? There are some vegetables and things like this, like that will, just from the moisture of the ground, they'll keep growing. But since it didn't take root, so there's no chiyuv maaser to take the tithe off from the additional growth that happens in the ground. V'nitalim b'Shabbat. And here's where the part that we need to speak about it comes. And also this part is also very, very dependent on the first part of Mishnah that says if the leaves were sticking out of the ground. That only pertains to the last halacha. If it's Shabbat, if the leaves are out of the ground, then you're allowed to take it out on Shabbat. Aha. So you see here. Now, if the leaves weren't out, you would have to dig out of the ground. That would be mamish moving.
But they didn't put it in, take it out, put it in. Right? That was the whole
Oh! So you didn't put it in, take it out, put it in. So what's going to end up happening? It's going to move the ground. So that's his kasha. That's exactly the kasha. That's what he's asking on Rav Huna and Shmuel. You're telling me that you have to, with the knives, put it in, put it out, and the herbs, so you don't have to. To yufta. So the Gemara says, you're right. It's a very strong kasha on them. Meaning, what do we prove from here? That tiltul min hatzad is mutar. As long as you move the muktzah through something else, and not directly, even though you're going to end up moving it, it's fine.
So those in the ground.
So also in the ground, you could put it in. Right. Okay. Says the Mishnah Kedusha. Lo kisel mibod yom lo yichasem mishutech. If you didn't do atmana, insulating, on Erev Shabbat, you can't do it on Shabbat. Even with something that's not Mosif Hevel. Why? Because we said, the first Mishnah, we explained that Hatmana on Shabbat is Asur even with something that's not Mosif Hevel. Why? Because if you get involved with your dish, you might see that it cooled off, and you're going to come to reignite the coals and end up cooking on Shabbat. Chas v'shalom. So therefore, that's what the Mishnah is teaching. Kisahu v'nitgala mutar lechasoto. What happens if you did cover it before Shabbat? You're matrin it, but then it got uncovered. You're allowed to cover it again on Shabbat. Wow. So Sfot learns this means even if it got uncovered before Shabbat began. Okay, others learn not like that. But what about if it didn't get uncovered? You uncovered it. Nidgala means sounds like it happened by itself. So Safot says that is okay also, but that's only okay if you did it on Shabbat. Because if you did it on Erev Shabbat, then it's like a brand new hatmana. As long as it went into Shabbat, either that you didn't touch it, and you just continue in the initial hatmana because it got uncovered by itself, or you uncovered it but it was on Shabbat, that's a continuation of the first hatmana, and it's okay to be mapping it again even on Shabbat. So if someone asks you as a riddle, when are you allowed to be matmin an item on Shabbat? The answer is if it was already tamun. Okay? You're allowed to fill up a jar of water with cold water. A jar with cold water. And if you want to make sure that they don't get too hot. In the old days they didn't have refrigeration. So how did they make sure that the water that was cold doesn't get too hot from the summer? They would put it under, is the opposite, hatmana. Hatmana to keep cool. So the Mishnah teaches us, to keep cool, there's no Yisur. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel says the Gemara, Ktosham, mutar latmin et hatzonen. You're allowed to insulate the cold, to preserve its cool temperature. Amar Rav Yosef, Maika Mashmalon, Tanina. Of course you're allowed to. It's a Mishnah. Why does Rav Yehuda say it in the name of Shmuel? It says clearly in the Mishnah. It's teaching us a lot. That's only water. People don't usually hide them underneath a blanket to warm them up because they don't get too hot from that. Therefore, if they're cold, let's say you wouldn't be matting it to heat it up. Okay? It's not so. Therefore, if you want to keep them cold, you're also allowed to do it. But you would have thought, "Avol davar shedako." le'atmin. Let's say a dish that sometimes people would be matmin a dish to heat it up. Then maybe Then maybe I'm not allowed to be matmin it to preserve its cool temperature. Because there were people that took a dish, right? And they just wanted it to get a little bit warmer, and they would be matmin it. That's going to be a problem. So therefore, maybe I would think that a dish, which to make warm, it would be a problem to insulate. So maybe if I want to keep it cool, right, take a piece of cold chicken out of the fridge. And I want to keep it cool. So since maybe to be matun it, to be mechamim would be a problem, so maybe to make it cool also it's a problem. Because you might end up doing it the other way around. And that's where Yehuda Amar Shmuel taught us that no. There's never a gzeirah on hatana to make something cold. Amar Avhuna Amar Rabbi Asru latmin et hatzonin. He says no, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to insulate something cold to keep its cool temperature. So the Gemara asks, Tanya Rabbi hiti lahatun et hatzonin. Rabbi himself, in another braita, ruled otherwise. He said it's okay. Lakasha. Why? Because Rabbi retracted. When he said it was asur, it was before he heard what Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yossi taught, that it's mutar. Why? What's the story? Rabbi was sitting and he said over the story, he said it's asur to insulate the cold. Abba, my father, Rabbi Yossi, he allowed it. The elderly sage already ruled, I'm mevatel my dat in front of his dat. I nullify my opinion for him. That's why he made it mutar. Look how much they cherish each other. How much kavod they gave each other. She'idu Rabbi Yossi kayam haya kafuf yoshev lefnei Rabbi. If Rabbi Yossi would have been alive, he would have bent himself and subjugated himself before Rabbi, because Rabbi was the Nasi. And he wouldn't have ever ruled a teaching in front of the Nasi. How do we know that? Because Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yossi took over his father's position, and that's the way he sat in front of Rabbi. So, although for sure his father would have done that. And yet Rabbi now says, when he hears about his teaching, Kvar Hora Zaken. So therefore, so we see from here how beautiful each one treated the other. Amalei Rav Nachman l'Daru Avdir. Rav Nachman told his servant Daru. First of all, Atmin litzonen v'aiti limaya da'achim kfei l'arma. Please insulate some cold water for me on Shabbat, like we just learned. Second of all, please bring me, it was a regular weekday day. The second thing he told them was, please bring me water to drink that was heated up by a kfeila arama, a non-Jewish cook. And he was telling him there's no Easter to eat bishulei nachem, even though we're not allowed to eat things that were cooked by a goy, so we shouldn't become too close and end up marrying them, the daughters. However, when it comes to hot water, there's no problem. Shama Rabbi Ami heard this story. The Ikbid, he was upset at Rav Nachman for doing such. We'll see in a second. So Rav Yosef, my time Ikbid, why is he so upset? Rav Nachman did exactly what his rabbis taught him, what his teachers taught him. One of his teachings was like Rav, v'chada k'Shmuel. And the second was like Shmuel. Rav Nachman was a Talmud of Rav and Shmuel. Where do you see that? Kishmuel dam Rav Yehuda Shmuel mutala hatunet atzonen. Because Shmuel taught that you're allowed to insulate the tzonen. That's what we learned. And Kirav dam Rav Shmuel Rav Yitzchak Amar Rav kol shu nechel kamot shu chai ema mishum mishulei nochen. Anything which can be eaten when it's raw, without cooking, then there is no isur that the Chachamim made when it gets cooked by the goyim. So therefore, water that can be drunk when it's not cooked, there's no isur when it's cooked. Okay? But Rabbi Ami thought that Rav Nachman, which is so chashuv, he has to be machmir on himself. Because people that see him are going to learn to be lenient even on things that are actually prohibited, and therefore he's going to cause a takala. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, Afa Pisha Omer in Tomlin Afilu B'Dov Sheina Mosif Hevel, B'Shechashcha in Bala Hosif Mosif. Even though we learned that a person is not allowed to insulate with something that doesn't even increase heat once it's dark, once it's Shabbat, but if he wants to add onto the existing covering, he could add. Keitadu said, what does he do? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, he adds another chidush. Notel et hasidinim umenech et haglufkirin. He takes off the sheets of flax and he puts glufkirin instead, which are woolen blankets, and they protect and preserve the heat much more than the original covering. And there's no istur. Or if he wants the pot to get colder, because he thinks it's going to get too hot in the summer months, no, tell him taglufkirin, he could take off the thick blankets, the woolen ones, okay? So now,
On Shabbat. Yeah.
on Shabbat. So what Rav Shimon Gamliel is teaching us is I'm allowed to use a new thing. Number one, I'm allowed to use a brand new thing, and we don't consider it like a brand new atmana. It's just a continuation of the old one. Okay? Even though the Mishnah already taught us that, it's a new chidush, more than the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Kisao, if you covered it, got uncovered, you can let it put it back. That's only, Mishnah said that only the same one, but Rav Shimon said you could use a new one. And another chidush, he says, not only a new one, you could use a warmer one, or a colder one, whatever you're doing. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Lo asur elo oto mecham, avo pino mi mecham li mecham mutar. Another leniency. The Chachamim only prohibited in that kettle that you heated up the water, there's going to be an isur to insulate it on Shabbat. Avo pina mi mecham li mecham. But if you take the water from that kettle and you pour it into another kettle, you're allowed to insulate the second kettle. Why? Because hashtea kurikam maker le'at tuchikam mirtachla. Because now he's making it colder. What are you doing when you pour from one to the other? That's an act that's going to cool it down. So you don't have to worry that he's now going to try to heat it up. So therefore,
At that time, you're allowed to latmin.
So therefore, if you put it,
if you didn't have it from Nisat Shabbat, the only way you'll be able to latmin is to move from one kettle to another and then to latmin.
yes, and he's allowing that. Why? Because
you're
cooling it, so we don't have a worry that he's being matmin, so he might come to end up. Because you see, he's not going in that direction. This person. Okay. Okay. So now the Gemara says, "Taman v'chisa b'davar nital b'Shabbat." If someone insulated around the pot and then he covered it with something that's nital b'Shabbat, that can be moved, that's not muktzah. Okay? You put a keli, let's say, on top. Otaman b'davar she'eno nital b'Shabbat. Or if you need to use the muktzah thing, v'chisa b'davar, use the muktzah item for insulating. But at the end of the day, the cover, v'chisa b'davar nital b'Shabbat, but the cover is still not a muktzah item. Harei ze notel u'machzir. He could take the pot out and put it back and uncover it and cover it because it's not muktzah. No issue. But taman v'chisa b'davar she'enu nital b'Shabbat, or shetaman b'davar nital b'Shabbat v'chisa b'davar she'enu nital b'Shabbat. But if you insulated and you covered with something that's muktzah, or even if the item that you insulated was not muktzah, but the covering was muktzah, the point of this second half of the Braita is when the covering is muktzah, then if it was a bit open, then you could hold on to the pot with the part that's open, and you're able to move it. Okay? So what you do is you grab, let's say the pot is covered this much, almost all the way, but a little bit it's open on the sides. So I could go like this. Whoops, the opposite. Whoops. Not so good. You go like this and let the pot cover, which is muktzah, fall off. Okay? Sounds like tiltul min atzad. V'im lav, but if it wasn't uncovered at all, which means it's totally covered with the muktzah item, there's no way for me to get the pot without moving the cover, which is muktzah, then einu notel machzir. He's not allowed to einu notel machzir is not allowed to take the pot and put it back because he's going to end up moving the muktzah. So Rashi has to marry the gekasha. He says there's a mishnah later on. If there's a stone on top of a barrel, you move the barrel and let the stone fall off. So why can't you do the same thing over here? Let's say the Mishnah says if you insulate it with something that's not muktzah, but as long as the cover is muktzah, you have a problem. The only way out is if you left a little part that you could hold it. But what's the problem? Take the pot with the insulation, which is not muktzah, so you're allowed to move it, and go like this until the cover. Whoa! Oh, until the cover falls off. Shake it off with the pot. Yep, so that's Rashi's kasha. So Rashi says, no, because it's a new issue. That case is only when you forgot the rack on the barrel. So the barrel doesn't become a basis. But here, I didn't just forget the cover on the pot. I purposefully, intentionally placed the cover on the pot. So the pot turns into what? A basis. So the pot itself becomes muktzah. Okay? Now if you remember, we said the opposite. The first parak in the Mishnah, we actually said the opposite. The first Mishnah in the parak, we said the opposite. What did we say? We said that when you take the pot cover, which is not muktzah, off, remember we said? And Rashi said, why isn't it a basis? So Rashi says, because the wool is serving the pot cover. Here Rashi suddenly says the pot cover is a basis to the cover. It's because you placed it on intentionally, and now it's muktzah. So there are terutzim here. The Sfat Emes says Okay. Now, the problem that everybody asks on Rashi is that if we're talking about that it's mamish of buses, so then why is the bright to say that if there's a little bit of an open spot, you could just move the pot with that? The whole pot is muktzah, it's a buses. It's Taisus Kasha on Rashi. So, the Magine Shlomo, he says that Rashi himself was sensitive to this question. And what Rashi was trying to say is that the last line, buses is only a problem if you actually move it. But if you just remove the muktzah it's making to a buses right there, you go like this, you don't move from its place. There's no muktzah according to Rashi in buses over there. Unbelievable. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the little pieces, remember we had in the Mishnah, when you comb out the flax, little pieces fall off. Rabbi Yehuda said it's mamash like the waste of animals, which is a davar hamostiv hevel, and it's asur to be done even on Erev Shabbat. Okay? So the Breita now, there's a Breita that quotes that sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, and it continues. You're allowed to place a hot pot on top of another pot. Kettles. Ukdeira agabe kdeira, and a pot on top of a pot. Ukdeira agabe mecham, and mecham agabe kdeira. And a pot on a kettle, and a kettle on a pot. What? Yeah, but the Rashi takes that out. You see Rashi? Kdeira, yeshon shechazim avaloi mecham agabe kdeira, u'farshim tayim v'teshu kdeira ma b'chamim, v'zevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizevizev You look over here in the Mesoret Hashas, Avalohu ta'ut. See in the bet in Mesoret Hashas, on the side of the Gemara, ta'ut, because Rashi has a different girsa.
Can I cross that out?
No, I mean you could put it maybe in parentheses, but if you learn this with Rashi, then you'll see it, and the bet of also takes it turns whatever you. Yeah, you could put parentheses around. Same thing is v'tachet pia bivatzek. You could also surround the mouth of the pot with a dough, which is what they did to preserve its heat. Not to heat it up, ella to preserve their existing heat. Okay? You're not allowed to do it to tzonen, but Rabbi argues, this is Rabbi that heard already the teaching from Rabbi Yossi, the father of Yishmael. Now the Gemara brings another halacha about cold fruits. The ein mirazkin lo et hashaliv lo et habarad b'Shabbat. You're not allowed to crush snow and sleet, hail on Shabbat b'shil sheyezu v'meimav, so that its waters will come out, because now you're being molid, a brand new thing. It's like creating these things. Okay, nolad. I will note in who that's where Rashi learns the tocha kos or the tocha kara. But you can put it into a cup of wine or into a plate to cool it off, even though they will melt. The eno choshesh of a molid. Why? Because you're not doing it with your hands. It is happening by itself. And therefore, it's going to be mutar. Hadron aloch. Bamer tomnin, let it come back to us. It's great parak. So now we start the new parak of Babme behema yotza. What can an animal go out on Shabbat with? Uvame einu yotza. Now, why would an animal not be allowed to carry things on Shabbat? And what is the connection from this parak to the last parak? The Mefarshim say, because this is another thing besides shehiyah, which is kira, and atmana, which are things that you have to be careful on Erev Shabbat. You also have to be careful with what your animal has on it on Erev Shabbat, so that it doesn't end up going out on Shabbat with things that it's prohibited to carry. Now, what is this isur? An animal doesn't have to keep the Torah, right, Yaakov? So what do we care what the animal carries on Shabbat? The answer is Rashi says there's a mitzvah to make sure that your animals don't do melacha on Shabbat. So where does this issur come from? The man yanuach shorcha v'chamorecha. That's how many Mefarshim learn, which is an issur asay. It's like a positive thing, so that your animals shall rest. Now, they don't have to rest from isurim that are like a bother to them. Like, don't graze, because every time he eats, he's ripping out of the ground. Right? It's only things like carrying, which is a masui, so they're not allowed to carry. Now, if a person is over, he doesn't even get, forget about it, he doesn't get skila or karet, and he doesn't bring a korban if he does it by mistake, he doesn't even get makot. Because it's an issur asay. It's a prohibition that's learned out from a positive, that's the pashtus, and therefore, but there's an issur. And you have to be very careful with it. So the Mishnah now begins and says, Bameh, there are some things that are there to protect the animal. They are good for the animal. Therefore, they're considered like part of the animal. Just like human beings are allowed to carry clothing because it's not carrying. But if they're not there for the protection of the animal, and they're just extras, that is carrying, and that's an issur. So the Mishnah says, Yotzei Agamal be'afsar, v'naka b'chatam. The camel could go out with the afsar on its head. It's like a rope that's tied to the head of the animal. And they use it as a, tie it to its mouth and its head, and they would use it as a, they would pull the animal with that. Okay? So therefore, since we need it, and it's enough for the animal to be controlled by this afsar, therefore it's not carrying. V'naka b'chatam. This is a female camel. B'chatam. The Gemara is going to explain what chatam is. V'luvdikim b'frumbia. What is luvdikim? We'll see. What is frumbia? We'll see. V'sus b'sher. A horse with the collar that has a ring inside of it around his neck, and you put the rope inside the collar in order to lead the horse, that's fine. V'chol ba'alei asher, and any type of animal that usually has this little collar around its neck, like hunting dogs and other small little animals, today dogs, yotzim b'sher v'nimshachin b'sher, are allowed to go out to the Rishut HaRabim with this collar, and they can be pulled with this share as well. Umazin alehen v'tovlan. And what happens if they became tamei, these collars? So you sprinkle upon them that if they became tumat met, and you know that if something becomes tamei met, it needs to have sprinkled. You have to sprinkle the waters and the ashes of the parah adumah on the third and the seventh day, and then it has to go to the mikveh. So do you have to take it off the dog? So the Mishnah says you could do it. You could sprinkle it, and you could immerse it in the mikveh v'tovlan bimkoman. You don't have to remove them.
With the dog.
Right. Well, you don't have to put the whole dog in. You have to put the collar. Right. Now, what is the chidush here? By the way, it has to be loose enough that the water gets inside. What is the chidush over here? So the Mefarshim say like this. There's a psul that Chacham made if you by mistake use the little brush that they would sprinkle from the paraduma. Instead of sprinkling it onto the item, you sprinkle it onto a behema. Then all the water that remains in the brush becomes pasul to be used for paraduma anymore. So the chidush over here is that the people will be careful, even when it's on the behema, to make sure it gets onto the collar only. We'll speak about it later. But now the Gemara says, "Mai nakah b'chatam." What does it mean? You're allowed to go out with the nakah. The nakah is like the female in the chatam. What is this chatam? And what is this nakah? What type of camel is this? Amar Rabbi Bechana, nakta chivarte bismama defarzula. A white female camel, and they're very hard to protect. They're very strong. So that it's not enough to have that rope going through their mouth, but rather you need to have this chatam, which is like a ring that they put through their noses. Okay, veluvdikim b'frumbia. What's that? So the Gemara says, Amar Avhuna chamara luva b'faga defarzula. Luvi type of donkeys. They go out with some bit in their mouth. Some say luv is from Mitzrayim. It's part of Mitzrayim. And it's basically some sort of bit that goes in their mouth that, what do they call it, the thing that goes in the mouth? The bit. No, what is it called again? The thing that they put on top of the mouth of the dog. Resen.
Well, that's the cage. Huh?
Yeah, the cage over the mouth. That's what we're talking about. Levi sent money to Bechuzoi. Okay, and it took a very long time to travel from his house to there in order to buy these very chashuv chamar luvi. Tzoru, he wrapped his money in a wrapping. Shadule sari. They sent back his money with some barley inside. Lemeimar, to tell him in a hint, denigi de chamar sari. And they're telling him like this, listen, we're not sending you. We don't want to send you. It's way too far. It takes 6 months to travel from here to there. We're not sending you any of these donkeys from here to there. Buy yourself a donkey in your place, and we'll give you a tip on how to take care of these fancy types of donkeys. Feed them, always feed them barley, and that way you'll be very happy. Okay. And actually, they're telling him, since I think what they're saying is, you don't have these types of donkeys in your place, buy a regular donkey and feed him this, and he'll be very strong. We're not sending you. We don't send you the Ferraris so far away. They asked Rebbe the opposite. What about if I take the male camel with the chatam, with this thing in the nose ring, and the female one with the rope in its mouth? Mau. Are you allowed to take them to Rishut Rabim like that? Meaning to say, the iron nose ring in the male camel is too much, and the other one is too little to watch it. So therefore, maybe that should be considered carrying, because it's not needed for the protection. Why is it not needed? Because it's not going to work. And the other one, there's part of it is too much for it. So part of it is not needed for the protection. So he told him, so the Gemara answers, Naka be'afsaloi tibadach. The Naka with just the rope, that's not a question. Keeping the lomanatave masihu. Since it's not protected by it, it's considered like it's carrying. Kiti bailach gamal v'chatam. But the other question is a good one. They keep it the sagal be'afsa, since it's enough to have it after masuhu. Or dilma teruti yeteta lo amrina masuhu. Or do you say that extra protection is not called a masu? because at the end of the day, the whole ring is protecting the animal. So therefore, you can travel. You can go out on Shabbat.
How is it protecting again? Sorry.
Because they put the rope inside the nose ring, and when it felt the pressure on the nose, that you're able to steer it and control it. But just the regular rope in the mouth around the neck, that didn't do the job for this very strong camel. So Shmuel continues telling us the story of this shaila in front of Rebbe. And he said, Kach Oma Abba. So said my father, Rabbi Yossi, Abba behemot yotzot ve'afsar. There are 4 animals that could go out with the afsar, hasus ve'apered, the horse. Okay? The fered is the mule, ve'agamal ve'achamor. What's he coming to exclude? Lemute mai, lav lemute, gamal b'chatam. He's trying to say that these 4 can go out with the afsar, but not with the khatam. It's too much. Lo, so the says lemute naka be'afsar. He's just coming to exclude the female one going out the afsar, not these going out with the khatam. Matnita Tana. So the Gemara brings down in the Braita, the Tana taught, Luvdikim v'gamal yoytzim be'afsar. The Luvdikim, which we said in the Mishnah, go out with the Prumbia. But there's a Braita that says they go, and the Gamal go out at the Afsar. Okay? And the Gemara says, Ketanoi, that's really a Machloket Tanaim, that not, this Braita seems to say that the Luvdik is also protected, not only with the Prumbia in its mouth, but with the Afsar. And the Braita really has a Machloket about it because it says, Ein chaya yotza b'sugar, v'chananya om yotzehu b'sugar v'chol davar mishtamer. The chaya doesn't go out with the collar. Chananya says it does, and anything that protects it. B'may askina, what are we talking about? Ilema b'chaya gadola, like a bear, misagi la sugar. Is a collar going to be enough? No way. So obviously it's just an extra thing, like an ornament around it, right? And it's well, not an ornament, it's going to be masui. Ela b'chaya katana, the ela b'chaya katana, so it's a small one, milo sagi la sugar, so why wouldn't the collar be enough? Ela lav chatuli kebeinayu. The machloket is by a cat. That what? You don't need a whole collar on a cat. You need a little string. Because a cat doesn't have such a desire to run away. So therefore, by using a real collar, masehut, that's too much and it's carrying. Any extra protection, since it is, at the end of the day, protecting it, that it is not a masui, and therefore it's fine. Levi, the son of Rav Huna Bachia and Rabba bar Ravuna, were traveling on the way. Levi's donkey got ahead of Rabba bar Ravuna. He was bothered by this because he was greater than Levi, and it was not proper kavod. We had this in Brachot, if you remember. Omar, so Levi said in his heart, Eimele milta, ki hechedi tosef daite. Let me say something so that he'll calm down. What did he tell him? Amalei chamor she'asakav ra'im. A donkey, which has bad dealings, which means he's very rebellious. Kigon zeh, like my donkey. It's very rebellious, you see. He's trying to calm him down that his donkey wasn't nice, that he went ahead. Is he allowed to go out with the prumbia? Now, a regular donkey, maybe the prumbia is too much. This donkey, it's not a good donkey, maybe, of course, it needs it. But a regular donkey, even though a regular donkey, it's going to be an isser. Why? Because it's too much. And even this donkey, which needs it maybe, needs more protection. Maybe it's marit ayin. The people will think that regular donkeys could go out with extra protection. Shmuel, your father, which was Rav Huna Bachia, said in the name of Shmuel, Halacha kechananya, that extra protection is not considered carrying, and you're allowed to let it go out. And therefore, there's absolutely no difference in your question whether it's too much or not too much, because it's always going to be mutar, chazak, baruch. Have a great day.